Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, Nourished with Ruth, your nutritionist. I'm back, and today, like I promised, we're going to be talking about complementary feeding. This is the introduction of feeds to your baby once they get the 6 months mark. Previously, we did talk about how to increase your milk letdown, so we catch up on that before we move on to today's video. And kindly hit that subscribe button. Let's grow this family together. So in today's video, in last video, sorry, I did mention that you need to take a lot of fluids, excluding caffeine, out of your diet. I did forget to mention that also fenugreek seeds and fennel seeds have been known to add to your milk letdown. So you want to prepare that and take it with your beverages as you like, or even in your salads. I've seen someone told me they do add that to their salad. I don't know how that works. I'm yet to figure that out, but I do know you can soak them and then use them in your beverages. So moving on to today's video, I want you to remember that your baby has been exclusive breastfeeding or has been on formula milk for the past 6 months. So the moment that you're trying to introduce new foods to the baby, one, you need to consider the consistency of the food that you're introducing. And then also the other thing, you also need to consider the fact that their digestive system is not fully developed and needs to adapt to whatever foods that you are introducing. So you don't want to start with anything that is cumbersome to digest to the system. And also we start with the simpler foods as we go, increasing the complexity of the foods that we are going to be using. So for starters, I always advise my mothers to start with starchy foods. So that goes with maize flour porridge. We can have things like mashed potatoes, all blended potatoes, things like that. So the rate at which, or the speed at which you introduce those foods, the amounts, for starters, especially the first few days, the baby is not going to take much, because for the first month you need to know that you're just introducing these feeds. So you're not focusing on the baby having so much of the food. You still breastfeeding, yes, only that now you're introducing the baby to other feeds. So at that point, you need to ensure that the baby gets about 3 tablespoons to 5 tablespoons. That's about 30 mls to 50 mls per feed. And then you do about 2 to 3 feeds per day. So you don't need to be so worried about oh, baby is not getting enough. So long as they're able to retain, you're good. You don't need to be worried about anything. The other thing that you also need to know is that once you start feeding your baby, you need to also ensure that your baby is well hydrated. So you start also giving boiled water to your baby. So you boil water in the morning and ensure by the end of the day. I always give an estimate of about 150 mls to 200 mls per day for the baby. But also, once you're giving your foods, it should be fiber rich. So you also need to include vegetables. The easiest vegetable to include in your, what is this thing called, in your foods for your baby at that point is usually pumpkin. Some call it squash, some call it butternut, whatever you call it. That's the most easy vegetable to include in the diet of your baby. And even carrots too, because it helps prevent constipation for your baby. So you don't want to introduce feeds and not give vegetables to your baby. So as soon as you introduce your feeds, you start giving vegetables. After the first month, about 3 weeks, now we start increasing the varieties of food in the baby's food. And then also, once you're introducing feeds, kindly don't give too many new feeds per day. You need to ensure that you're able to observe your baby and also identify the foods that they like, and in case of any form of reaction, maybe the baby starts, or any form of interactions, you're able to identify, what did I do today that I've never done that could have led to this outcome. Maybe the baby had diarrhea, maybe the baby had constipation, such like things. So you don't want to be feeding your baby too many new foods per day. One new food per day, one new fruit per day, and make sure that your baby is well hydrated. And then after that, now we start by introducing the proteins. And the proteins, we start with the starchy proteins. The plant proteins, which I say they are still starchy because they do contain some level of starch. So that is our legumes, our pulses, as most other people call them. So once you start introducing your pulses, you do wait 2 days. Once you introduce, let's say, what are they called, green peas. If you give green peas today, we wait today and tomorrow to observe, does the baby react to this? Are they able to tolerate? Is there anything that is different for your baby? And so once you've done that, after you've done the plant proteins, now you go to the animal proteins. That is where you start giving minced meat. We can give organ meats and all that. So you need to prepare the food well, cook the meat well so that it can be blended or it can be cut into small pieces that the baby will be able to tolerate, and then give them to your baby. At the end of the day, the aim is to ensure that the baby is getting all food groups, and I'm not talking of food classes, food groups. They're about 10. So we need to ensure that our baby is getting porridge, our baby is getting an egg, and especially the yolk, because it has more vitamins. The zinc and the vitamin A that we are looking for is in the egg yolk, so a baby can have that too. And then we have our vegetables, our colored vegetables, especially our green leafy vegetables and other colored vegetables. So carrots, tomatoes, what are they called, black peppers, bell peppers, all that. You need to ensure that your baby is getting that. And celery, there are all kinds of vegetables that you can include in the foods that you're giving your baby. But also at the end of the day, it's important, the amount of food that you feed your baby is dictated by their appetite. I might say that when you're starting, that your baby needs about 3 tablespoons, but then your baby has a higher appetite and takes about 10. You don't deprive them. And then once you start feeding the baby, especially after the 6th month, once they've gotten to the 7 to 7 months, you need to start prioritizing feeds over our breastfeeding, or breast milk or formula milk, whatever you're giving. So you start with feeds first, and then you do the breastfeeding, and baby will be okay. So knowing that, now you know that the meal frequency for your baby should only increase based on their needs. So, and that is coming at 7 months now to going to the 8th month. So that is where we start increasing the meal frequency from 3 times to 4 times to 5 or 6 times as we head to 9 months. So basically, you don't have to be so worried about feeding of your baby. Your baby is okay so long as they are not complaining, so long as by complaining they are not crying, they are not irritable, means that your baby is getting enough. So moving forward, I think if anyone has any questions about complementary feeding, leave them in the comment section. If you have any personal questions, you can always reach me on my email and WhatsApp. And then for consultation sessions, I charge 500 so that we do the consultation. You give me the updates of your baby. If there is anything that needs to be done, I send you to do that. If you're not able to come to me, and then we do a plan and I follow up for up to 2 months. So that way we are able to have the results that we are looking for. And then after 2 months, we can see, after a month or two, every 2 weeks we do weigh, and then every month we can update the plan that we have based on whether we had updated it previously or we need to continue that way. So guys, until next time, see you on the next one. I'll see you on Saturday. Bye guys.